encountered just a few minutes ago. After starting the session, I realized that my picture, you can actually see the video wasn't not working on the device that I started to use, and that was just not the case earlier on. Like the video just shut down on me. I'm not sure what that was all about, but I'm glad we're here and we can get started. And thank you if you've been waiting for a minute. I do appreciate you for waiting, and we'll get started. And by God's grace, we'll finish on time as well, because I would not want to hold anyone up since we are starting a little bit late and we're a little behind. So welcome. I'm here. This is Mentor Connect Book Club. You're welcome back. This is the second book this year. It's been a minute. Like I said, I do not want to wait too long. I've kept you waiting for a minute. So now I just want us to get started and keep going. If you have not been able to get your hand on the book, which is the book that we're going to be talking about today, Find Your Why by Simon Sinek. I hope that's the way to that's the way to pronounce the name. There were also two co-writers, David Mead and Peter Ducker. So those are the two co-authors. We'll get started again. This is Mentor Connect. If you're just joining us, this is Dr. Tina, and I will be the one going over this book and narrating, at least from my perspective, a few things that I've been able to gather from Simon Sinek's Find Your Why. I believe one way or the other, if you're able to pick the book up, it will be nice to read, even though it might probably be a bit long, but trust me, it's a good book. All right, so who is, let's talk about the authors. We definitely have to give honor to whom honor is due. Again, I do, just to clarify this, I am not getting paid or anything. It's just, I think it's always good to share knowledge, to rub minds together, to sometimes, of course, it's just need, some people just need probably one or two hints as to how to make things a little better. And I gained a lot from this book, and I hope you will do the same. Simon Sinek or Sinek is actually one of the, I think it's probably the main author, and then we have two co-authors. So he's an American author. He's actually an inspiration. I think he speaks a lot all over. He's an author of 5 books, and one of the books I think that he wrote before this particular book is actually called Start With Why. And I think the other one is the game, I believe it is the Infinite Game, because I actually started reading that as well. I have not finished that, but I've completed the Start With Why. It's a good one as well. Actually, that one came out before this Find the Why book. So you can also get started why if you probably want to look a little bit more in details as to what this why is all about. All right, so the co-authors are David Mead, and we also have Mr. Ducker as well. David Mead, like I said earlier, he's actually, he co-authored this particular book. He's also a speaker. He's been helping leaders and to grow, and of course, pouring out powerful ideas, and he gives talks all over the world. And so does the other speaker, which is actually Mr. Peter Ducker, who is actually another co-author, keynote speaker, a teacher, an author, and he facilitates as well, and he's been all over the world. So with that said, we'll go on to the agenda. So it's Find a Why. It's one of the things that the book started talking to us about. It actually started to give you reasons why you need to find your own why, and then we'll move to discovering of your why, an overview of how to discover your why and why discovery for individuals. So first part is talking about why do you need to figure out the why. Second part is discover your why, an overview of what that means, and then finally it'll tell you why discovery for individuals, what exactly it entails, the process. Again, I will try as much as possible to move very quickly. But at the same time, I will encourage you to get the book. If you feel like this session gives you a better understanding of what this book is all about, if you have not read it, I think it's a good book to read, to digest, to share, and also to think about. So one, the book started by telling us about questions you may need to ask yourself even before reading the book. Probably questions you need to ponder on. It says, why exactly? It says, why do you do what you do? I don't know what you do. You're a business person, you are a career person, a professional, a business owner, an employee, an employer. Sometimes you need to sit down and say, why exactly do I do what I do? Because sometimes we just get carried away doing same routine, or maybe you just get carried away making money. If you're in a nonprofit organization, you get carried away thinking you're helping people. But sometimes you need to take a break. And I think this is something we need to do often to make sure you are still on the right track, especially for those people who feel that they're already working their purpose, they already know what their goal is, they already know exactly what what their life is supposed to be all about. Sometimes you might probably, you still want to be on the right track. Sometimes you probably things are still going in the right direction and still doing what you're supposed to be doing, but deep within, you might, who knows, maybe you're not really being fulfilled. So yes, we need to sit down sometimes and ask the questions. So why do I do what I do? Why do you even get out of bed in the morning? Some questions like that comes to mind sometimes when you feel probably some down, maybe you're not getting the vibe you're supposed to be getting from your work, from your business, from your career, from whatever you're doing as a person. I want to ask yourself, am I fulfilled every day in whatever I do? And what does it even matter anyway? What I'm doing, does it really matter? Does it make a difference? I mean, questions, good questions you might want to ask yourself, and see that's just where to start, especially when we start talking about this particular, the why question. It's a big question. And I think, like I said, once in a while, we need to ask ourselves individually what this means and what it's all about. So according to Simon Sinek, who is actually the main author of this book, Find Your Why. If you're just joining us, we are talking about a book called Find Your Why. And we'll go at least deeper into the reason, the process, and why this is important to us. So here's something that Simon said in his book. He said, every one of us has a why, a deep embedded purpose, some kind of cause or belief that is the source of our inspiration, that allows us to be inspired to go to work, and of course, coming home at the end of the day, feeling that you're fulfilled by the work we do. So it's something at some point, somehow within us, that when we complete a task, if we're doing what we're supposed to do, the way we're supposed to do it, and we're fulfilling that why, we should come home fulfilled. And then he said, or what other things they actually said also was, when you ask this question, why, it enables you to think and reflect. It enables you to clarify a few things about yourself, about your life. It reveals deep within what is inside of you, what you're doing, if it actually correlates. And also it helps you to trigger thoughts about your identity, your belongingness. Do you belong where you are? I mean, are you doing what you're really meant to do? And also it questions about your values, your value system, your belief system, ideologies and virtues. When you start asking that question, the big question, why, these are the things that the why helps you and I to clarify. You reflect, clarifies where you actually, your belongingness, your identity, your ideologies, and your virtues. So again, these are questions. Sometimes we need to sit down, even as much as probably some of us feel like we're already there. You are satisfied with what you're doing right now, but is it actually what you're supposed to do? Are you fulfilled? Is it what you're going to do? Are you getting home tired and feeling like, okay, what exactly am I doing? So this is time to kind of ask that why question. Does it align with your being, your belief, your goals? Does it align with what you're doing? So here's the definition of why. I guess we probably need to give ourselves an opportunity to know what that's why. What is WHY? And so if you've heard me say why, what is why? So It said it's not, at least to start, it's not a statement about who we aspire to be. So sometimes you're like, oh, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be the president, I want to be that. It's not a statement about, no, you're making a statement and say, you know what, this is what I want to be. That's not what it is. But it expresses who we are when we are at our natural best, when you feel that fulfilled, when you feel that you're fulfilled. What exactly takes you to that point? And how do you get there? What exactly are the things that you're doing that makes you, at the end of the day, that you completed the work, that you feel like you contributed to the world, and is actually, it's not about money. We'll talk about that more about that later. It said it's a positive, generative. It is positive. Your why should be positive and generative after you actually clarify what your why is. It serves others. I like the word, it serves others. It's not because I want to get money. It's not because I want to fund this for my business. Your why, it should serve others. It should actually make a positive contribution to other people's lives. And then when you are done with this, also, it brings fulfillment when you are done in serving others. And it's a common thread, like it's what you kind of do, a thread that brings out the best in you. So your why is one thing that brings out the best out of us, whatever we are, whatever we apply ourselves to, we should be the best. It should be our best. And of course, it is who we are at our very core. All right, so a couple of things that I definitely want us to go into as far as why is it beneficial? What is the benefit of you finding your why today? And that's what I would like to quickly run over, because it's always good to know the reason why you're doing, maybe that will actually give us that a reason to think deeper, to dig deeper into the why and the reason why we get up every day, or even if you have to find out if you even have fulfilled what you're doing, regardless of how successful you think you are. And then success, of course, is not based on money, it's not based on popularity or your position. Actually, it's how fulfilled you are. So, benefits of discovering your why. It brings your values and beliefs to the forefront. So when you discover your why, if you are able to dig deep enough to find out why you wake up every day and what makes you fulfilled, who you really are within you, you should be able, it helps you to, it brings your values and beliefs. You exactly know, what are your values? What are my beliefs? When you find your why, it should be embedded. That's what brings out those values and beliefs. Should be in it, should be some of the things you discover when you find out your why. And also it says it guides us to act with purpose. If you know your why, now you have a purpose for what you're doing. Whatever you lay your hands on, does it align with your why, your being, your reason, what makes you fulfilled? So you just don't jump on anything. You come back home tired, you come back home distressed, you come back home just not feeling good about what you've done for the day, because you're not fulfilled, because you're not really doing what you're all about. It helps to inspire other people. Now you can inspire people because you know what you're doing, what you're about, and you're working towards it. You're working within the goals and what you believe, your purpose. So it helps you to, it actually inspires other people, because people see you happy and you're like, okay, what's going on? What exactly I mean? And it's all about money. I said it earlier. So why? Those are the benefits of you discovering your why, your deep, what's deep within, what are you made of? What are you all about? And of course, it brings you the feeling of fulfillment that you may not have felt in a long time, because you've probably been just, maybe you're used to what you're doing. So it really doesn't make any difference. It's like, it's the same norm. It's a normal thing every day. You just do it as a routine, but then you're not deriving a fulfillment in it. So finding your why and discovering your why helps you to have that feeling of fulfillment every day, a sense of purpose. It brings clarity to whatever you're doing. You can improve on it. You can get better at it, because you know that you are there for that purpose. And if that purpose is not being fulfilled, or you're being, or whatever you're about is not being, it probably doesn't happen where you are. Maybe you're at a business, maybe you own a business, maybe in your own individual life, or even as a part of a community, part of a business, part of an organization. And you're looking around, you're like, okay, this place doesn't really, it doesn't make me feel like I'm actually supposed to be, I'm not impacted. Maybe once you find out your why, you can actually be the element of change in that environment. All right. So I say if you are struggling to live your why, then maybe understanding your purpose, your why, actually your cause, your belief can help you to change, realign your perspective. Some people are getting bored with what they do every day. Some people don't even understand why they can't get any satisfaction from their work. It gives you an idea of a new perspective. Now that if you know exactly why you exist, and we'll talk more about the why, when you know exactly the why, your whole being, the why of your whole being. Why do you exist as a person? What is it that you're made of? And of course, we can help you to find a feeling of fulfillment and fill any void. Some people have a void in their life. They have probably that they are rich, they're wealthy, but they still have this void. So your why can actually, because once you find out what you're all about, what it is that you're made of, what makes you feel fulfilled, and you are impacting others in what you do, actually helps you to be able to takes you to a new direction, maybe a new creativity about what you're already doing. So again, it's actually very, very important for us to know our why. So more, it's if you're in organization, there's some benefits. Today, we're only going to be talking about why for individuals. So it might also apply to you if you are probably a sole proprietor or you are probably a business owner. So knowing your why, it can actually help you propel you forward in your business, because you may be doing business, or you may be probably have an organization, and you're probably doing it because you think you're doing it for someone else's good, but it doesn't really bring you yourself, who you are, into that business you're doing. So today, if you're able to find your why, and whenever you're able to work on your why, dig deeper insight to find out about who you really are, what you're made of, and why, what your whole being it's all about, you might be able to actually go further and put that into perspective in whatever you're doing. So if you're in a company or an organization, don't say, oh yeah, I don't have anybody to work with, an excuse and this and that. You can also bring yourself as a person into the organization and because people can know what you're all about by acting it, by doing it, working, creating an environment and allowing yourself to be who you are. So in a company, it helps if the company or a team or a group, if they're able to discover their why, it helps the culture become more tangible, more meaningful to the employees, because they know exactly what their company is all about. They know exactly what the vision is. They know what it is that they are there to do. When they hire people, they're able to hire people based on the why of the company, the goal, the belief of the company. Some company just use, and whatever you like it, only start as a great company trying to impact people, change lives. But at the end of the day, things change. It's now about money. Of course, it's all about capitalism. And, they're driving. The customers are not loyal to the customers. Obviously, those customers cannot be loyal to them. And then that's when you have the marketing, deceive people. So companies wouldn't have to do that if they are very true to themselves, true about what they're doing, and truly impacting lives and changing lives. So finding why in an organization puts the company in the better position, actually, even over their competitors. It enables the right tools to manage, nurture, and measure the company's intangibles, some things that you cannot really measure. Some discussion, some things about your employees, you probably don't even know if the employees are loyal or not, because what you're doing as a company, what the company actually does, it's more about, oh yeah, it's our bottom line. It's more about profit. But if the company knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing, what they stand for, hopefully they will be able to impact that in the employees, and also the employees will actually be able to in turn put that in their work and make sure they are actually following the companies. Some companies have visions, they have mission, but then the way they do, or whatever the product or service is, at the end of the day, you can tell that it's not about that vision of mission. It's more about their bottom line and what their profits and all that. So companies, if they know their why and they stand by it, they're able to measure the customer's loyalty, the employees' loyalty to the company, and be able to probably hopefully help target their product and service in such a way that it projects their way, speaks for the company, and the customers also is able to get that from their relationship, or at least in the services that receive those from those companies. It helps the company to develop strategy and communicate clearly also, both internally and externally. And that also goes for even the nonprofit organizations, even the sole proprietor. If you're a sole proprietor, it's if you know your why and you stand by it and you literally perform services, you do your due diligence to always make sure that what you're about is what you're portraying. It shows in every of your product and your services that you are actually truly trying to help people to get to where they are, or to actually become, in one way or the other, what you really probably you're trying to instill in their life. So for example, there was a company that was mentioned in the book about a company that makes a coffee. I think it's a coffee machine. It's very interesting when the coffee machine, a company that makes a coffee machine, by the time those people, meaning Simon Sinek and his team, they actually went there, the company invited them so that they can want to know more, dig deeper into their why. And at the end of the day, after they've done their session, which I'll explain later, they realize that all they want to do is to get people together, to network, to bring out ideas, get people together, to rub minds together in a relaxing environment. And then they know that that happens around like the coffee area, where people actually just relax, but then they can flow, impact knowledge, create ideas and all that. And they said that's actually what the coffee making machine, so they put their best in making the best coffee and make sure it serves the people, that people can actually stand around that and be able to divulge their ideas and communicate and network and be a community. It's interesting. How can a coffee machine create a community? I don't know, but pretty much that was what they're all about. So everything they did about a coffee, making the best, the best product and the machine and all of that, was actually created around the fact that they want to create a community, whatever their coffee machine is, neither be in the office, at home, or whatever it is, they really want that community. So it's just interesting knowing what your why is. So for a career person, these are other benefits. Discovering your why injects passion to your work. Of course, even if you decide to probably apply for a new job, if you do know what you're all about, you'll be able to hopefully strategically locate the company that fits your why. So you're not just going to jump into any company just because of money, but this time you look further, you dig deeper and say, you know what, this particular company does not serve my purpose, or it doesn't really align with my why. Let me look for some other company. So it won't be about money. If you're an entrepreneur, if you find your why, it helps you to communicate what is singular. What is it about you, about your clients, your employees, your customers that you need to meet, that you need to probably cater to. So if you are actually creating a product or a service and you know deep within what your own why is, you want to put that goal, that purpose, that vision, whatever it is that you yourself you're all about into products you're putting. So it brings your true sense of who you are into the service that you're actually selling to people, or the service that you're providing for other people, or the product. And if you're a member of a team, also within a team, you can actually inject your own why. It's a way that we as a team, if you come together, you know exactly what the why of a company is. You can all work together as one to bring out the why within the team. So to actually meet the company, to meet the company's goal. So I think it's one good way to actually look at it in different ways. But again, we're only going to be talking about finding a why as an individual. Again, that might also probably help sole proprietors or people that are probably maybe nonprofit organization, maybe, but solely today, I'm only going to talk about finding your why as an individual. And if you probably are part of an organization, a team, and you really want to know more, I think I would suggest, I think it would be better for you to actually read the book. They have chapters on how to determine the why for an organization, either existing or you're starting off an organization. And it actually has like 2 different or 3 different chapters that breaks it down if you're within the team or you're starting an organization, a business altogether. But for today, it's for professionals. It's actually for individuals. That's what I'm going to talk about. Probably all we're going to have the time to talk about. So it said, finding your why in that book, you probably want to go as far as chapter 3 and then chapter 4 and 5. If you're a team member or in a group decision, you're a group or a division, those are chapters will actually help you. So what are the steps? What is it? How? Exactly how do we go about this? So what are the steps? Step 1, gather stories. So this is the steps of how to find your why. So it's actually pretty easy steps. And this the team is suggesting the way to kind of help you. Maybe you're starting out, you will just want to try this out. There's another way that I think probably might also be helpful, but the authors actually think doing this will probably help you to be able to go deeper than just the surface level of you. Oh yeah, I can do this, I can do that. I think this, I think that. So I'm going to share this with you, of course, that they also have workbook that you can, I think it's free. You can Google and just get a workbook and just work with us, or you can get the book. It actually walks you through the steps of finding your why as an individual, as a person, as a professional, as a career person, man or woman. It actually just gives you very easy steps to do it. So the first step says to gather stories to share. So you yourself look deep within. And I think one of the things he suggested is by the teenage years, by 18, you already have a full-formed course as an adult, who you really are. And those goals, those things you probably would have already somewhere, it does exist within an individual. So it says gather stories to share. So which are the public stories that he said it might not all be perfect or good stories, but stories that you can actually probably you've experienced through your experience over the years. What are those stories that you can express that at your best? That at the end of the day, that was your best part. Probably it was a best natural self in that particular probably story within that particular context of what you're trying to explain. And I'll give an example much later. And it says when you gather those stories, actually suggested to get about 10 stories. Like you can remember, oh yes, vacation, Disney vacation, this happened and this is what I did. And he actually gave a little bit more information about how to actually divulge that story. Once we move on, I'll talk about it. So very quickly, gather your stories, about 5 or 10 stories, you need to write those down. And think about those stories. Of course, you want to have concise and definitely detailed stories. 2, identify the themes with that story. So when they say identify the themes, what exactly is common? Can you find anything common? Those are the things you have to note down when you are defending those stories. What exactly happened? So we went to this trip and then something happened. Probably you were, your car broke down, blah, blah, blah. And you were the one that went out for help. I'm just saying it as an example. Again, I'll give you a little bit more details about the stories, how he suggested to actually make sure we get the stories and get it deep enough for you to be able to identify their themes, related themes in this particular in your stories. And last one is draft your why. Draft your why statements. It's as easy as that. But then starting off, it says you have to, why is an origin story. So that's one statement that Simon Sinek, he actually said, it's an origin story. He said everyone has a why. All right. So that was, again, that's from the book, that you have a why, meaning you have one thing or in your life that makes you you. And I so much believe in that you're a unique person and there's something that makes you you. There are some set of things in you that has been created, that God created you with, and that's why we have different fingerprints, right? That is unique about you. And one way or the other, that part of you does not change, never changes. Just because you're not demonstrating it, or you're probably not at that point where those things are part of your daily life, does not mean you don't have it. So he said, everyone, that's what Simon said. I'm repeating what it says, and I believe it. I believe that you and I are unique in our own way. And there's a sense, there's some things in us that are just deep within, they're embedded in us, that when we are able to carry ourselves out in that particular way, and when we are at our best, the strengths, and I don't want to call it strengths, is that things we can actually do that it comes out naturally in the situation that you probably never thought of, but it comes out of you. You act on things, you do things in a certain way that's just unique to you. And we'll talk more about that. What are those things that actually are unique? What are those themes that you can see in stories that you tell? It says when you look at your past, and you look at those threads and those stories, those experiences, it's something that probably might influence others. It's who we are. It doesn't matter if it's at the best, at the eyes, the most, the best of time of our lives, or at the lowest point of our lives. There's something that comes out of us, some action, some qualities that is probably so embedded in us that makes us, again, I keep saying that, and these are the patterns you might want to see, you might see in your stories. So yeah, your stories, it doesn't matter if it's the best stories ever and the most, enjoyable story or the best story, and it might be the worst stories, might not, it doesn't have to be good stories, but that person in you still comes out of that story, and that's what makes you you. It says for an individual's why must bring together a standard, your memories. It's a defining moment that it brings out who you are. You as a person acts in certain ways, do certain things that is just a natural you. And also it says, when you are gathering these stories, make sure you look for moments that are specific in your memory and retrieve them, because you need more details. And this is just talking about the kind of stories that you share as an individual. When you gather the stories, this is very step one. I'm going into details. Sorry, this is step one, and I'm going into details. I told you about how to actually gather. This is the how of defining, of determining your why, of you being able to know what your why is. The first part is getting the stories and gathering the story. These are the kind of stories and what type of stories that you gather. The stories that are probably, they have defining moments, and when they have connections to you. And these are stories that you are at your natural best. What you're doing was not something you predetermined, or that was predetermined, or you probably planned. It just happened naturally. It's an action, the steps that you take, what you did in a particular moment. That, again, it doesn't have to be at your very best, or it doesn't have to be at your lowest. And I'll give you a particular story that Simon, he actually mentioned in the book, was very interesting. It was actually at the very low point in that person's life, but it was able to derive a particular theme for that person, that it's a part of her that she didn't see at the time, but then it was something that actually was part of her why. So, example of a story here, it says, a general one statement is, our family took a driving vacation every summer. Okay, so what about the summer? I mean, of course, a lot of family take vacations probably in summer, some in winter, whatever. But this is too general. Nobody can derive anything from this type of story. Again, I'm just giving an example that he gave. Now, going back and telling that particular story again. Remember, we said gather 5 to 10 stories. That was what he said. Now, retelling this particular story, instead of this one line, he says, he actually went ahead, and I'm going to read exactly how it was retold. This particular story says, our family always took driving vacations. One year, the car broke down in the desert, and we had to hitchhike to Albuquerque. I was seriously scared, but I remember thinking that I needed to be strong so that my younger sister wouldn't be scared as well. So I made up a game. I make up a game to entertain us. This is a kind of specific, to entertain us, this is kind of specific details needed. Even though this individual was actually scared, but it didn't stop this lady from actually helping the younger sister to feel comfortable, even though she was pretty much scared herself. So these are the kind of stories that you tell, and it doesn't look significant, but then it tells like you're being brave for this person. You're actually helping, providing help, making sure that this younger sister is not scared. Thank you so much. God bless you. If you're there, again, this is a book called Find Your Why. And it's actually, the author is Simon Sinek, and we're just talking about the why process. And why is actually finding who you really are within yourself. Who exactly am I? And then it helps you at the end of the day to be fulfilled if you put in that part of yourself to actually help and inspire others, and you live in your natural self every day. So it says, when you tell the story, make sure you capture the specific and the impactful details. I just give you an example from that story. Capture the emotion and feeling. We talked about the person that actually was very scared, but then she was actually being brave for her sister. And then when you tell the story to someone, it is difficult to be objective if you do it by yourself. And I'll talk about the next step of the process. I told you to get out the stories, but then how do you actually come up with the final state, which is why? It says, then it might be difficult for you to do it yourself. So of course you probably have to connect the stories yourself. So we talk about you having a partner so you can do this probably correctly. And once you've gathered them all together, you have to choose about 5. So once you yourself gather those stories together and you are able to probably try and gather the emotion, the stories that probably tells the best. Of course, you know, you don't have the best stories, but it gives you the details, like emotions you're feeling, and the ones that you think you actually have a good one that you can tell to someone else that has all the details, deep details that you can remember. That those are, choose 5 out of those 10. Remember, I said get 10 stories, but you can choose 5 altogether, and that make it in some impactful events, events that made the biggest difference in your life. And then, of course, you have to work with a facilitator or a partner and tell the stories to them. So find someone. If you find someone too close to you, like your partner, like your spouse, it might not really work because the person might not really want to probably tell the truth, or not tell the truth is not that, but maybe not objective enough. So you probably want a friend that's close enough that you can share your stories with. Thank you so much. I appreciate that you can still share your stories with, so that person will be able to see those stories and be able to connect, draw some themes, things that are probably similar for this person. Maybe another story tells about how brave she is to some other. Again, it's not about you. It's about just you being your natural best in a situation where probably you're able to impact someone else. Now, this is step 2, identify the themes. So the very first one, to actually reiterate on that, gather your own stories, about 10, and then look deep into that stories, find the ones that were actually very impactful to you, the one that you can, 5 of them that you can tell the details. You know what your emotions you're feeling at the very, of course, it's not planned. We're not talking about things that you planned for. You planned a surprise party for your friend. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about experiences, stories in your life that probably impacted your life. Wasn't something you planned for. Just an example we gave earlier, the car broke down, this girl was scared, and this was probably maybe early in our teenage years, and the things began to emerge. Those are kind of being the deepest part of you that's just emerged naturally, and you didn't have to do it. I just realized, I have a sister here and I have to be brave for this person. So those kind of story, gather 5 of them, and then get a partner, get someone that can help you look at those stories and say, you know what, I see this particular theme emerging. You're brave, you're helping someone, those kind of themes that emerge, that can actually emerge from the stories you tell. So the person suggests about 5 stories, and then it says identify the themes. So you know the stories, you've written it, you and your partner in a different coffee, we told the stories to this person, find a place. It said not a place that's noisy, just find a place. Like I said, this is more like just helping. Probably you have a friend that's probably wants to help you to gather this particular, to know who you are, get more in depth as far as who you really are. You gather those themes separately. The person gathers the whole thing, whatever comes out of the story that you've told on either side says, and then the listener will develop. You go ahead and pull out what you think are probably similar reoccurrence of themes, maybe strength and inspiration and those other things that helped and that can actually impact someone, that actually helped someone, or that's actually impactful to somebody else, like the person with a sister. And of course, this is something, again, that may not probably take a bit for the story for you to, for the person. Now, that's why it's important for the person that's helping you to write those stories down and to look deep into those stories and be able to pull out the themes and the things that probably look similar, how you've been able to do one thing or the other in those stories that you've told, not for yourself, but for somebody else. So that's how you identify the themes in the stories that you're telling. So as you share the stories, as the process unfolds, the theme should start to emerge. If you something, may not be probably one, maybe 2 or 2 of the stories that actually carry, or maybe 2 or 3. That's when you start to see the things that make you who you really are. Some nuggets that says, oh, when you see those things jumping out, you're like, that's who I am. That's a real me. You start to see those things that probably didn't make sense, but because you're looking at those different stories and those kind of things are jumping right at you, your strength, the fact that you're able to impact something, the fact that you're able to help somebody, to probably develop someone, or things like that will push you probably be emerging with those stories, those experiences that you've had, and the impactful stories that you've told. So your partner should be able to do the same. And then when you look at the things that you pulled out of those stories, pulling them out one by one from those stories, like I said, very short things, inspiration and impact knowledge, or strengthen someone and things like that. When you pull out those things, you pull them together from each of the stories that you told, each one of you actually has to do that separately. And then you ask your partner or your facilitators together, choose, and both of you choose a theme that you probably see repeatedly. You've seen it. Your partner also must have seen it in what he or she must have written down as well about you from the stories that you tell. It helps you probably when you see the bigger picture. You can see the bigger picture. You definitely can bring them together. And some of your themes that you're deriving may be, oh, you're supporting someone. In every story you told, it was about you supporting something. In every story you told, it was about you building somebody up. In every story you told, it was about you connecting with someone and then pushing boundaries, doing something, impacting lives, and you are creating something to make life better. These may are some of the themes you may be able to gather. So these are not like big things. You're looking at things that just repeatedly shows up in your actions, in the stories that you told us, those impactful stories, those experiences that you had, things that keeps jumping out. At least you've told 5 stories. So maybe 2 or 3 of those stories has some of these themes that we're talking about. So it's not something, when you say theme, it's just something that looks similar that you repeatedly did in each of those stories. And these are stories that it wasn't something that you probably planned for. It was something that you experienced, and out of your natural self, you were able to bring those things naturally came out of you. You naturally inspired someone. You naturally connected. You naturally built someone, helped to build someone. Those are the type of things you can write down. And then when you're done, step 3, which is the final step, you're ready to derive a why statement. And he actually suggested we have a why statement, that every time we look at those why statements, or someone asks, what are you all about? I mean, what is your why? What is your reason for actually even existing where you are? You can draw out your why statement and say, this is what I stand for. Meaning that when you get up every day, what you stand for is what you live your life by. It's what you, because it makes you fulfilled. You can get back to your home every day and say, I have not wasted my day. Thanks for joining, Mrs. Olasunji. God bless you. So we're talking about finding your why, finding the reason of your being, finding who you really are, and how that helps you every day to be fulfilled if you're able to live by that rule, by that goal, by who you are. Living your life every day, needing and knowing fully well that every day that you step out of that house, you are doing something that actually makes you fulfilled, and that comes out of your why of who you really are, who you truly are. So you have, and this is step 3. So the first step obviously is you getting the stories, impactful stories. Step 2, getting a partner to help you tell the stories to the partner. After you gather the stories together, and you tell the person, what do you see in these stories that says, oh, this is really me. This is me. That when I tell you those stories, what do you see? What can you bring out of it? Am I inspiring something in my stories? Am I being bold enough to actually step up for other people? Am I being able to actually bring the best out of people? Am I inspiring other people? So what exactly do you see in my stories? And that's why you need a partner to be able to actually to see that thing, because you might not be able to be objective enough to tell about your emotions and all of that. So the final part is actually suggests that we get a statement, a why statement. So you can read that why statement to yourself and say, this is me, this is who I am, this is why I exist. And then that actually is supposed to help you become a better version of yourself, because you know what you're about. A lot of us go about every day, we do our work, and we accomplish it. It's in a routine, and we'll come back and say, I'm tired of this job, because you are not really living out who you are, even at the job you have in your career as a professional, as a businessman, whatever. So the final part is 1 or 2, get whatever themes you can get together. Make sure that those themes are very clear, simple, actionable, and is focused on that person, on the deep within the person you are deep within, based on the stories and the things you're able to derive from your stories. And then you define a why statement. And the why statement is very, 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 very easy. The way that he actually told the why statement, I wish I can actually show it to you here. He actually said, it says to blank, so that blank. So all the statement is saying is to, that's the beginning of a statement. That's a why statement that he suggested in the book. Then after the 2, actually tell whatever contribution you make in the life of others. Again, I said that who you are is not the person that makes you, probably it's not what makes you, give you your own personal joy or enjoyment or maybe fulfilling what you want to be, what you want done in terms of, oh, I want money, and I'm going to get money. I want this position. I want to be promoted. That is not who you are. That is not your why. That's not what you live for, by the way. That's not what you live by. You should live by day by day in a way that you're able to contribute to the life of others, improve their lives, make lives of other people better, because joy and happiness actually are short-lived. But when you're fulfilled, it goes along with your mind is at rest, that you're able to change a life, you're able to impact a life, you're able to contribute to someone else's life, you're able to stand for someone. And then so the statement says to, and then you put in contributions you are making to the life of others, so that, and then the impact of your contribution. So you start with to, and then you fill the blank space with some contribution that you're making in life of others. And then the second part says, so that, and then you complete the sentence by the impact or the contribution that you're making in order to make someone's life better. So I'll give you an example of a why statement, because I know what I'm saying may probably not make sense. So it says to finish every project ahead of schedule under budget so that I can. This is an example he gave. And he said, this is not a why statement. To finish every project ahead of schedule under budget so that I can be promoted and earn money for my kids' college. Simon gave that example. He said, that is not your why statement. You are not living life so that you can make money and send your kids to college. It's part of your responsibility, don't get me wrong, but that's not why you live. That's not why you're fulfilled. That's not why you live life every day and leave your house every day. It's part of you just being who you are. A parent is part of you being just serving, doing that particular role as a parent, as a dad, as a mom. That's not why you live. That's not why you are. That's not who you're being. Tony says a why statement should actually go deeper than that. It should be relevant to your personal and professional life. Your why should be who you are wherever you are. It should be a statement of your value that you are adding to a life, to a job, to a business. What exactly is it in you that makes you to be able to be valuable to someone else? Because if you cannot know who you are, know what you're about, there's no way you can add value to someone else. And that is what it says. It says, what are you all about? What is it that I am? Why exactly am I existing? Why? What am I made of? What exactly, who am I within me? And that's why it says a why statement needs to go beyond, oh, I want to make money and send my kids to school and make it. Thank you so much for joining. People that are just joining, I see Mr. Gola, God bless you. I see Mr. Balogun, God bless you. And I see Mr. Yudeji, God bless you. So as I was saying, we're talking about your why statement, your being, your reason for living, why you are who you are, what makes you fulfilled. And this is what we're about today. And it's said to Simon, it's all about a book that I read, Find Your Why. That's the name of the book, literally, Find Your Why. And the name of the author is Simon Sinek. Sinek. So if you think you probably want to learn a little bit more, you can actually check the book out. It's actually very great. So it says to draft a why statement, meaning you have that statement written in your heart. So everybody wakes you from the sleep and asks you, what are you about? Why is it you are who you are? Who are you? What are you all about? So this is your why. So your why is the sum of everything that you are within you. Everything should be about what you do. It should be about your decisions that you make, about the tasks you perform, about the product you sell, about the service. It should identify with you. So when you show up in the business, when you show up at the friend's house, you show up at your job, your why the people around should be able to tell your why, who you are, why you are, your whole being should be, because every day when you go home, you'll be able to think and say, oh my God, today I'm fulfilled because I was able to actually pour myself out, do something that I'm all about for somebody else, for someone's life to be better, or for someone to be a better person, or for someone to actually be able to move forward. So example that Simon Sinek gave, a why statement, and I'm just going to read it verbatim. This is what Simon said. This is an example of a why. And that I explained to you exactly what a why should entail, what it's all about. Simon Sinek's why, and this is the author, it says, His why statement is to inspire people to do the things that inspire them so that together we can change our world. So his goal, what he envisions every day when he steps out of his house, is that everyone that he meets in his work, in his conversations, communication, decisions that he makes, he wants to make sure that he inspires somebody so that that person can also go out and change their own world in one way, in a different way, in small ways and big ways. Again, that is Simon Sinek's why. So he writes books, workshops, and he gives lectures and does all of that. That's how he accomplishes, that's his how. That's how he accomplishes his why. So he said from where on, Simon actually makes the change happen, like I said, through workshops, and he conducts, like he writes books, and that's why we're reading his book today. So that's how he makes sure he fulfills his own why. So for you and I, we can also come up with our own why. I know probably today you may not have probably seen or heard a whole lot to probably push you forward. But I want to encourage you that sometimes it's very important for you to sit down and say, what am I all about? Am I living every day to be able, for people to be able to know that I am here, not just for myself, but be able to make a difference, to make a change. And I'm not talking about you creating a nonprofit organization. I'm talking about you yourself making that determination that in the decisions that you make, you are able to actually put others in that decision as well to make a change in someone's life. So you can format to get your own why. Again, all you need is just get a partner, write those experiences or your stories, and probably pull out those themes and use what I actually said today in terms of that statement. Two, you start with the statement with two, and then your contribution you're making. And then the other side is what exactly the contribution you're making to the life of others from the example I gave you. And the final part is so that other people, whoever it is that you're making that contribution to, whatever you think actually will make, how that will change them or change their life. What are the next steps? That's all the 3 steps that Simon suggested as to why, how you can actually determine your why. Today, sit down, ask yourself those questions. If you think it's important, start by living your why today. So when you find your own why, when you're able to write it and you're probably in your heart of heart, you determine who you are, what you're all about, what this is, why you really exist, what it is that you go out to do every day that changes people's lives or in your natural, and that's not making things, we're not telling people to try to make something out of who they are not, because at the end of the day, you will not be fulfilled. We're talking about doing things that comes to you naturally because it's part of you. And that is your why, your goal, your being, how you can actually, what you do to change someone's life when it comes to you naturally. You don't need any position for you to be able to act and operate within your own why. You don't need a title, you don't need a technology, you don't need a piece of equipment, because it's an embodiment of who you are. So whenever you show up, your why shows up there, and people around you should all actually see that why, because it comes naturally. So it's not you going and faking it out. That's what we're talking about. So the next time you are there, this is actually talking about what are the next steps. Make a change. When you're making a decision, you can ask yourself, well, what I'm doing, will it actually help to bring my why, who I am, to life? If the answer is yes, then you keep going, because at the end of the day, you know you're going to be fulfilled. Something to I'm going to round this up with this, and this is, he said there's something called a golden circle. And that's what Simon said. He said, for every organization, every person's career has three different levels of, they operate within this different levels. If you're a professional, if you're within an organization, there are 3 levels that you should be operating within. It says what you do, what we do, of course, is part of your life, how you do it, but the why you do it should always be the start of everything that you do, or you try to do, or whatever you decide to do. Why do you do it? Why is it, am I here, this job? What am I doing here? Why am I taking on this job? Why am I taking on this career? Why am I taking these classes? Why is this? Why? Your why, everything you do should start with your why, because it gives you a sense of direction or purpose, a reason for you to continue, because you know at the end of the day, you will be fulfilled. Your why is the backbone of your purpose. It's a backbone of your belief, and it's a backbone of your cause. The cause of you being where you are, doing what you're doing, probably, maybe at the end of the day, the whole being where you are, how you exist, what you're all about, actually is still a tie to your why. And you ought to live it every day so that you can also be fulfilled and impact people's life. People should see that in you. Finally, that's the golden circle. So the golden circle, again, is actually depends on three things: as a person, as an organization, what we do, how we do, why we do. That's who, at least every day we live. It's all about these three things: is why we do what we do, how we do what we do, and what we actually do. Those are probably, that's all the foundation of everything that we're all about every day. So you step out there, you say, okay, what exactly am I doing? What we do, and how we do it, and why we do it. Definitely, that's pretty much the bottom line of whatever we do every day, or whatever we actually find ourselves doing every day. So example one, I gave you one example about Simon's why. I'm going to give two more, and I'm going to give mine, and that will be the end of the day. I'll call it a day. So the other two authors, co-authors, sorry. The first one is David, and this is his why. David's why is to propel people forward so that they can make a mark on the world. So every time he steps out, what I'm doing, will it propel people forward? I'm sure those are the questions. And well, if they propel, what I'm doing is able to propel people forward, those people will be able to go into the world also and make a difference. Now, how does it accomplish that? It looks at the big pictures, it takes up responsibilities to impact others, and it actually looks at alternate perspectives when he's looking at, if he's doing things to benefit just himself, he'll look at alternatives to actually benefit others while he's doing it. And of course, in your career, probably as a worker, as an organization, you're able to do your own work. As you do it, also have other people in mind to be able to probably to help them as well, so that you're not the only one benefiting from it, but others are benefiting from it too, if that's who you are. The second example is actually the second co-author, and I'll read his why statement to you as well. His why statement is to enable people to be extraordinary in what they do so that they can be extraordinary in other things, meaning that he does his best to make people, maybe in training, teaching, educating, make someone extraordinary in your career and your business. You can take someone, a mentee, and you can be a mentor to people. Even within your team, you want to make your team extraordinary because you want to put your best in your work. If you're providing a service, whatever you do, you want to make sure you put everything there so that the work, the service becomes extraordinary. And that person also not only will be able to tell others, but also at the same time, hopefully will be able to work on that and be extraordinary to others. How does it make it happen? It makes everything simple. Whatever it does, it doesn't complicate things, going to get people confused. This is a co-author. That was his why statement, and he embraced ideas. But other people, he doesn't shut people down. Try to actually help people build on their own ideas. It builds relationships, good ones, and it pushes boundaries. And finally, this is my why statement. I'm still working on it. So please, this is not like the only, I read a book and I thought, yeah, I definitely need to have one as well. And this is actually concludes our session for today. And mine is to equip relevant knowledge. This is part of what we're doing today. What I see that's actually my impact and help people. Maybe you've heard this for a million times. Sometimes it's something to remind us to do, because sometimes when we've done things, heard things, it's like, okay, I know it all, but sometimes you probably need a reminder. So to help people to equip relevant knowledge in others, so that enabling them to become a better version of themselves, so that they can be a change agent to the world. Again, my why statement, which I'm still working on, I say to equip relevant knowledge, to impact people to equip relevant knowledge in others, enabling them to become a better version of themselves, and in turn becoming an agent of change to the world. All right, so that's my why statements, and I hope today you're able to go back and think about, what am I all about? What exactly is my existence all about? Why am I who I am? And am I fulfilling that purpose or the goal or the reason, the goal, the reason of my being? Am I fulfilling it every day? It's a question we have to ask yourself Some of us are actually thinking, oh yes, I'm working in purpose, but we probably, you may, at some point in time, maybe you're carried away, probably moved away a little bit, and you're not really where you are. It might be time to sit down and say, why am I doing this? Why am I in this business? Why am I in this career? Why am I where I am today? Why am I in this? Why am I providing? Why am I actually producing this product? The why should be something at the forefront of our mind at every point in time, wherever we are. And I see this as an example of something that people probably tend not to think about. And at the end of the day, they're tired, burnt out in whatever they're doing, because it doesn't bring who they are out in order for them to actually make an impact to the world, for them to be fulfilled. So again, I encourage you, find what your why is today and live by it, impact lives, because I'm pretty sure one way or the other, if you pay it forward, if you're actually able to do that and you're able to impact lives, people may be able to pay it forward as well. Again, I encourage you, find your why today. And as you do so, I believe more than ever, you would definitely not regret it. You'll be fulfilled, you become a better version of yourself, and you impact lives. And I'm pretty sure that's one thing we all want to do. Again, have a blessed day. Thank you for joining. This is Tina Ibironke. If you're looking for a reason, probably to be able something to read, you can buy the book, Find Your Why. I'm not selling for anyone. This is not a promotion for the book. It's just something that impacted me, and I thought it would be a good idea also to share with the world. God bless you. This is Tina Ibironke. Again, this is a Mentor Connect Book Club platform, and I will see you next time. Bye.